Random Rockers. Again, no hat, but it is a review this time. So, Dunkirk. Wasn't really going to see this originally. Kind of was iffy on it. Knew it was a war film, but usually I wait till they come out in DVD or something. Anyway, but I will say, I'm almost glad I waited. There's not much I can honestly tell you that you haven't already heard before, but here we go. And that is the fact that this movie is, unlike most other war movies, as Nolan has a way of wanting to do things differently, and that is, of course, that this is all more about the Battle of Dunkirk itself, that part of the war. And these people are just instruments, or just there to kind of gather you along and give you that experience of the war itself. It's not there to give you a sense of character development or anything like that, which is what some war films, the more Hollywoodized stuff, likes to do. No, that's why most people in Hollywood don't necessarily give him an Oscar, because he's not willing to conform to what they think. And usually what he likes to do things has worked out real well. The Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, some film, Prestige. Despite some people saying Insomnia is a weaker film, I have yet to see those earlier films yet, like Memento, Insomnia, and I don't know about Following, but we'll see on that too. But overall, pretty well everything from Batman Begins onwards is when I first got to know Nolan, so just like most people have lately. And man, I will say, for what this movie is, I am definitely one of the few people that out there that will tell you that I enjoyed this, and it's definitely going to make some of my top 10. However, I do see why some people would complain with the character thing, but I wouldn't, only because I only had like one brief period where I felt like I might have been bored. But he knows how to handle the scenes better in such a way that you would, and the score and everything keeps good tension. That's, I think, is one of the better things that is actually considered a character within this, is Hans Zimmerman's score. Or is it Zimmer, not Zimmerman? I'm sorry. Sorry, Hans, if I butchered your last name, or didn't fully pronounce it right. I don't know. But yes, I really enjoyed this, and anyone who enjoys a war movie and wants something different than what you normally get out of a war film, I would definitely go see it. For that reason, even in the theaters itself, I almost kind of feel like I would like to see it again myself. If anything, character-wise, it would be, we wind up following these one soldiers that are involved mostly within the battle, but they aren't as interesting necessarily as, say, the people going as the civilians on boat, getting some of the soldiers that have, especially those that are pilots. And then speaking of that, Tom Hardy, of course, his role was definitely one of the better ones for sure. Every scene he had with as a fighter pilot was always pretty intense and pretty interesting enough to still keep you engaged in those scenes. He knows how to wind he really does know how to do this, and I will give Nolan credit when it comes to his directing skills. Some people for some reason find it boring. I never really found it boring. I never really seen what the problem was, and plus it was, especially when my buddy, who asked me to come see this with him, even he was like, this is good. This is finally a film that's all about the war itself and focusing on that event, that Battle of Dunkirk, and not trying to get you to get invested in these other people that are probably already dead by now. Just focus on the event itself and let these people guide you through. All these people from Britain, mostly though, everyone involved here is either a civilian or one of the military people in the British forces. And there are most of them are British, obviously, and it's kind of ironic given, of course, Christopher Nolan himself is British. So this was kind of important to him, I guess. Piece of history for him, I guess. and one that here we don't really talk much about here stateside, because like the First World War, when it came to World War II, we weren't as involved in it. So this was kind of something it's a big battle, but I never knew much about it, or at least not enough that it was talked about in our history books, because most of ours was American history books. So this was definitely a learning experience on my end, but for my one buddy, he was actually happy that they did good justice. So once again, Nolan, you did good, despite what everyone else is saying. And then most of them are too Hollywood for their own good, is what the issue is, honestly. And I know it's not surprising that people are not going to probably get bothered to give him an Oscar for this film. And or at least as a director, we know how people are with how the Oscars and the Academy is with Nolan. And we know for a fact that there's not really much of any performance pieces in here to actually warrant for anything else. So that's what's going to suck for this film. But I honestly feel like if they just the Academy just pulls their head out of their asses and finally gives Nolan some form of gratitude and credit, maybe they might give it for him with this or something. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll see what happens with that. Not like I care enough on it, since I'm usually not as involved with Oscar stuff. But so speaking of that, once again, Logan definitely needs to. Regardless of that, Dunkirk overall is just for what it is. It's a good, fun war. It's an interesting war film that truly encapsulates the Battle of Dunkirk, and that these people involved in this aren't really meant to be characters, as they are meant to be just the instruments that guide you along through this journey that is the Battle of Dunkirk. Dunkirk itself is the character. The people involved in this are just there to guide you along the way to see it through to the end. And that's exactly just to see this whole event that is the Battle of Dunkirk to the end. And that's exactly what you're going to get. Just know that before you see this, because if you're expecting to get attached to any of these characters or something, then don't even bother, I guess. But seriously, as long as you know that this is a war film about Dunkirk, and that's what it is, nothing more, nothing less. And Nolan doing his thing as a director, how Nolan is pretty well the stars, or pretty well the director, and the man who's been scoring, the team of composer Hans Zimmerman and director Christopher Nolan pretty well are the real stars of this entire thing. For their roles at stars of this entire thing, and the other actors are just Tom Hardy's about the only one that really shines through this whole thing, and some of the other actors are interesting, but it's most, like I said, it's just Dunkirk is all about Dunkirk itself, nothing more, nothing less. And that's all you really need to know about this film without necessarily having to spoil anything. Not like it needed to really worry about this. I mean, it's our part of history anyway. More specifically, like world history and British history more specifically. And possibly French, because I think Dunkirk and the beaches were kind of around France, I think. I'm not very good with World War II stuff, so forgive me for that, y'all you World War II buffs. Anyways, what y'all think of Dunkirk? As for me, I think it's a thumbs up. Potentially will grow into rocking all the way. I know that for a fact. Once again, what y'all think of it? Comment below. Let me know. Rock that like button with thrust if you must on the videos. Please check out my Facebook page, which I don't plug up, but don't do enough of a shameless plug for. And as always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking, and I hope to see you in the next review or video, hopefully with a hat again, if I remember it. Man, I've been so busy lately. You'll understand that when you see the other video I put up. Take care, y'all.